monitoring this new report. Days after the October 7th attacks, President Biden convincing Netanyahu to halt a preemptive strike against Iran-backed Hezbollah, warning that it could spark a wider war in the Middle East. This report in the Wall Street Journal today. We will bring you more details as they are confirmed. Meanwhile, we know this evening Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with President Biden, expressing his appreciation, and he also made it very clear Israel will continue this war until all goals have been achieved. And today, Israel did expand its ground operations across northern and southern areas of Gaza and are engaging in fierce battles this holiday weekend. Ground forces destroyed and seized weapons and underground infrastructure from Hamas. Thousands of explosive devices and anti-tank missiles and rockets have also been seized. We want to bring in now Associated Press reporter Isabel Debre, who is live on the ground in Jerusalem for us. And Isabel, thousands are taking part in a protest against the Israeli government and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu right now, calling for hostages to be set free. What can you tell us about this massive protest?
This is the latest in a series of demonstrations to grip the streets of Tel Aviv, specifically in Hostage Square. And it's known as Hostage Square because of these repeated protests to try to put pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do more to bring the hostages home. Now, there are still over 120 hostages, Israelis and dual citizens, that are believed to be still captive by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And increasingly, these families are trying to call for Israel to strike a deal with Hamas, like it did last month, actually, in exchange for Palestinian prisoners that are being held in Israeli jail in order to get those people home. People have even taken to the streets and said, look, you can free all the Palestinian prisoners as long as we get our people home. That's how desperate people have become. Now, what we've also witnessed here is that this has been peaceful. There's been no violence in these protests, but at the same time, it has gone increasingly heated, increasingly emotional, especially after what we saw last week in the mistaken killing of 3 Israeli hostages. And yesterday, we saw the White House also confirm separately the death of a 73-year-old Israeli American in Hamas captivity. And so both of these incidents, as well as other fears, have really fed a larger sense that the Israeli military operation in the Gaza Strip has not succeeded in bringing these hostages home, and instead is, they fear, putting them in more danger.
I understand it. And the Israeli military, meanwhile, says that it has arrested 700 Hamas members and transferred some of them to an Israeli prison. Now, this is quite controversial. Can you explain why and also provide any information on this practice?
So we've seen these images emerge over the past few weeks showing Palestinians stripped to their underwear, hands bound behind their back, blindfolds on, heads down, these really kind of controversial images that have surfaced. And the Israeli military today provided a bit more detail, sort of rare detail, on what these roundups are looking like. They basically said that in the northern Gaza Strip, what's happening is that troops have rounded up several hundred suspected Hamas militants and Islamic Jihad militants and actually transferred 200 of them to the Israeli detention centers inside Israel proper for interrogation. But this is a little tricky, as you can imagine, because as a journalist, not even on the ground in Gaza, but constantly in communication with my colleagues there, we still can't confirm exactly, are these people members of Hamas? Who exactly are they? And of course, Israel says, look, Hamas is hiding among the civilian population, and that is a serious concern. But at the same time, I've spoken with Palestinians in the northern Gaza Strip who have said that actually what's happening also is that Israeli troops are going door to door and rounding up all the men of fighting age. And these mass roundups have raised serious international concern.
And before you go, we know, of course, the fighting is intensifying this weekend. Today, we know at least 90 Palestinians were killed by 2 Israeli airstrikes, and that adds to the more than 700 already killed in the past 24 hours or so. What is the very latest you can tell us about what's happening on the ground?
So just now we heard from Israeli military spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari. He told us that Israeli troops are fighting really fierce and complex battles, street by street, block by block, in the heart of Khan Yunis, the southern town where they believe a lot of Hamas members have fled. That also includes engineers that are going down there trying to understand how to get into the Hamas tunnel network. All of that is And meanwhile, bombardment continues across the Gaza Strip. As you mentioned, we saw many deadly strikes overnight. The health ministry in the Gaza Strip, that's Hamas controlled, says that over 200 Palestinians have been confirmed to be dead, and half of those just in 2 deadly strikes, one in the center of the Gaza Strip, which originally was believed to be more safe, and one in Gaza City, in which a UN Development Program employee was killed along with 70 of his family members.
Okay. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.